So this video might be a little bit longer, as we're going to be doing a little bit more than just making our closing animation on the chest play. We're going to be setting it up so only one person at a time can access the container, so you can't access it while it's in use, which is going to require us to kind of make some changes on how we open and close our inventory. So for example, when we press I, that's just going to be done purely on the client, as server doesn't need to know about it, doesn't care. When we walk up to, for example, this chest and we press E, well, we're going to have that be performed on the server, just like we do with picking up items. So that way we can kind of control, we're going to do that in another video, for instance, like the distance between us and the chest, or even that we were even looking at the chest for it to open. So we can kind of prevent cheating that way, and that's going to be what dictates us being able to open our inventory with the chest alongside it. Which, as that stands, there's going to be a problem that's going to be introduced later on in the video that I foresee. Like, for example, since only one person is going to be able to access the inventory at a time, well, what happens if the person who is in the inventory gets killed? You're going to have to kind of handle some different situations along those lines, which we will dive into maybe in this video. I kind of doubt it, depending on how long it's going to be. So to get started, as you recall, just when we open it, the inventory or the open animation plays, close it, nothing. It's just open. There's no opening or closing or anything like that. So we're going to alter the kind of opening and closing setup. So currently, the way we do it, when we press E on the client, we check and see if we did in fact hit a container. If we did, then we set our open container variable to equal the container that we hit, and then we call our open and close inventory function. And when that opens, if our open container variable in Blueprint is not null, then it will create the widget that contains the inventory for the chest. So we're going to need to move this server side. So we already have our server interact set up here. I'm going to go ahead to continue with our current naming scheme. I'm going to add an underscore after server, just to make it look like we do everything else. I don't know if I forgot to do that or what I did, but we're just going to go ahead and do that. So let the IntelliSense catch up. Any day now. Yeah, screw it. Alright, there it goes. So we're going to pretty much have two variables. First one's, they're going to be replicated with owner only, so only to ourselves, because other people, they just don't need to know about it. So we're going to replicate our, once I find it, open container. So property replicated, and we are going to make an Unwrap event for another boolean that's going to be our opening and closing of our inventory, but this is going to be strictly for opening and closing the inventory of the chest. So property replicated using, then we need to make a function, so we're just going to do boolean inventory opened. Yeah. Now we need to set up our replication in the CPP, so include Unreal Network, and then after begin play, that's where I always just do the get lifetime replicated props. And we're going to do open container. We do need to add a condition, so do rep lifetime underscore condition. And then the third parameter for that is the condition, so cond underscore owner only. We're going to do the same thing for inventory opened, and I think that is all for that. Then we're just going to do in the constructor inventory opened equals false. Okay, I was thinking I had another inventory variable for some I didn't recognize, but I guess not. Alright, so those are replicated. Now, I am going to alter wherever it is. Well, not alter, but change our open close inventory function. There it is. So I'm going to copy it and do u function. Change the name to Unwrap. And this is what is going to be used for our inventory opened variable. Let's create a definition for it. And now we can get started on how we want to set that up. I'm going to go ahead and build, just make sure I didn't skip over something stupid. Alrighty. Now in our interact, we can actually go ahead and let's just copy this section and get rid of it from our, we'll get rid of the else statement and get rid of this. So we're only going to call server underscore interact. And then, well, I guess we actually already have it. So in our server underscore interact, this is where we're going to change our inventory variable. So inventory opened equals true because we're hitting that container. And then we are passing in true to the container. I feel like, didn't I need to do something else on the client? No. Okay, so that is going to set us up there, and then unwrap open close inventory. We can simply, well, we're going to be doing this for the most part again, but a little bit differently. So if, I'll do that at the top anyways. Oops. Then inventory widget, remove from viewport. So our first condition is going to be if the inventory is open. So if inventory opened, but if the inventory is opened, we don't necessarily want it to close, so we're going to do the opposite. Now this should open the inventory. And let's see. Let's just go ahead and see roughly where we're at here. Okay. Yeah, that should automatically run the Unwrap. So this should allow the server to, oh, and I'm having a crash again. Every single time I reopen Visual Studio. I mean, Unreal Engine, it seems. Unless I forgot something. Alright, so open it. And it is not. So let's see, I think what we're doing here is, let's see. We server interact. Inventory opened equals true, which is going to set us up here. But I did not set up our opened container. So I'm going to do that first, so that's set. So opened container equals inventory, what am I doing? Equals container. Now this should allow the, the container, or the storage widget to open as well, like before. Then we're going to do that and just make sure it works. Yeah, let's test on just 2 real quick. So it does. Oop. But as you can see, you cannot open it again, so we need to look into that. So just like before, but you cannot reopen it. So that's because we have no way of setting our inventory opened variable back down to false. So that's what we're going to have to do here. So let's think about how we want to do that. So from the client, whenever we press I, we're going to check if inventory is opened. If that is the case, we're going to pretty much make a call to the server to tell us that we want to close the UI by setting it to false. So let's make a server function. Let's do that under interact. So you function server reliable with validation void server underscore inventory open close bool open. We need our validate. And implementation. Right, and they are right here. So what we can do here is do inventory opened equals open. That's going to pretty much set everything how we want. And I'm trying to think if we want to close it, or we should probably do that when we remove it from the viewport. Yeah. Alright, so that is, yeah. Alright. Let's actually change what we call it. Change it from open to opened. So that way the naming scheme follows. Alright, so now we can alter it here. Or, nope, here. Alright, so this is what's going to remove it. And our open container is being reset to null. And that should be at the same time as we alter this here. Okay, I'm actually recording the rest of this video on a separate day, so I had to go kind of abruptly last time. But I wanted to point out some things that I see some issues. If you recall from last time, I think this was at the end of where we left off. We could open the container, close it, but not reopen it. As you recall, I think that was partially due to the container being null, at least on the client end. So I also foresee like no real reason to have our inventory opened variable anymore when we can purely go based off of open container. And that way it'll be just a lot more reliable as well, instead of hoping that these both are going to be replicated at the exact same time. Well, this one first. So I'm going to go ahead and start by getting rid of our inventory open variable. I'm actually going to go ahead and copy and paste this over, so our open container is now going to be using that Unwrap function. I do want to change the name. It'll be fine. Where did we make it, though? There it is. So we can get rid of the parameter that it takes in. I'm just going to rename it to inventory close. So the naming makes a little bit more sense. And we're pretty much going to be using this strictly to close our inventory. So then I want to set this so it's opened container equals null pointer. And get rid of our inventory opened reference anywhere that's being used. like there. I'm going to reset that up in a minute, where we have it to replicate and in our constructor. So this is going to fire on the client whenever our opened container variable changes. That's whether or not it goes from a null pointer to a valid container. So we're going to simply do a check. So if opened container is a null pointer, we are going to remove the inventory from our screen. We're not going to have our widget be displayed anymore. We can go ahead and get rid of this here. That shouldn't have even actually been there in the first place. And that should be it, because that should toggle between. And then in our open close, again, get rid of open container. In our open close inventory, we should, let's see, when we close the inventory, we want to call, whoops. Well, actually, we might be able to set this up a little bit differently. So we can do this here. So let's see. So if opened container is valid, then we set opened container to be a null pointer. Otherwise, we're going to set it to be let me reformat this a little bit real quick, and I'll explain what's going on. As you can tell, I'm kind of winging this. Alright. So if the container, meaning it's valid, we have the inventory and everything open, and we press E on the container again, we want to be able to close it. Kind of like how we're kind of keeping that functionality from before. Or we can press I and close our inventory that way, but we got to set that up here in a second. So what we want to do is we want to determine how we play that animation, whether or not we want it to open and close. So if the inventory is open, we want it to close. So we're not going to do anything to this open chest variable, but if it's not open, we want it to open. So we want to set open chest to true, which will allow it to simply, well, pass in true to open the chest and play the opening animation. Otherwise, we're going to pass in false, and it'll play the closing animation. Right, so then when that gets replicated, it's going to check. If it's valid, then it's going to open our inventory, and the traditional Unreal Engine crash. That has happened every time, I think, so far in these videos. Beautiful. Alright, press E, opens, press E again, it closes. E again, open, close, close. Spam it. And voila. Alright, so we kept that functionality. When we press I to close it, it doesn't actually close. So I press E on it again, it'll close, then it'll open. So that's where we need to kind of fix it. So go over there. As you can assume, let me find it. Here it is. When we press I, we're checking if we actually do have a we do have our inventory open in our viewport. So what we can do here, just to be on the safe side, anytime we do this, we can do a check. So this is where we go to remove it. What we can do here is if opened container, meaning it's valid, we call our server inventory close function, and that will make it close on the server. I think. Yeah. Alrighty, let's head over. Open, close, same as before. Press I to close. Nothing. Alright, so let's think about why that could be. So this is running the client, and it's checking if it's in our viewport, which should be the case, and open container would be valid. That should force it to close. I want to print out a log just to see if it's running. Closing chest. Because when you're setting that to null, that should cancel it out. Well, not cancel it out, but force it to close wherever it's relevant. So open, I, and yeah, closing chest. Alrighty, do I have something else interfering? Which I shouldn't, because that should be null. Which should, wait a second. Unless it's just strictly related to, well, that shouldn't affect it from opening though, but that should affect the animation. But we can always simply make it play the closing animation on top of that. It's false. I do just a check, so double check, so if open container. We're going to make it play its closing animation. Right. And I closes, opens, closes, and I'm pressing E and I, by the way. Now just spam E, open, closing, just as normal, and pressing just I, opens, closes inventory. Alrighty, so that fixed that. Now let's just triple check with more than one client. Did not mean to do that. Alright, make it visible. Open, close, because it should happen at the same time since it's being fired by the Unwrap. Alright, it's good to go. And what happens when they both open it? Alright, they both access it. One closes, and the other one keeps it. So that's where I want to do the one person opening at a time kind of dealio. So we can do that by... Alright, I'm getting completely lost where I'm at. There, here we are. So what we can do is we can check if open chest equals true. Then we simply will not... Let's think for a second. We don't want it to do necessarily anything. So we're going to copy this here. Let me think first. Alright, so if the container's open, don't necessarily want it to close. Right, we're going to do a check here. So bool is chest open. We're going to have that return is open. Right here. Okay. We're just going to go ahead and start building. So now we can do a check. So container, or not, if container is chest open, if it is open, we return. But that would cause an issue. Alright, so we can do another check. So if chest is open and open container equals null pointer, then we return. Okay, so if client 1 opens it and has, the inventory open on the chest, open container will not be null, meaning when they press E again, this will not run, so it will not return, so it will continue running. If client 2, let's say it's still open on client 1, client 2 runs this, well, this is going to be true, and this is going to be true, so it's going to return and not run the rest of it, in theory. Let's check here. Client 1, open inventory. Client 2, press E. Nothing happens. I can't open it, but when I close it on client 1, I can now open it on client 2, but not open it back up on client 1. So now we have one more simple issue to fix. So that is, let's see, go to client 1. I'm going to open the inventory. And let's say I kill him. Alright, well, the chest is still open, and I cannot access it. No one can access it. So as you can assume, that's a little bit of a problem. I'm recording, aren't I? Yes. So what we can do is, if we go over here to our dive function, somewhere, we can simply call, even though we are on the server, but actually we can simply just do open container equals null pointer. And this should cause the chest to close. And we actually, that might not. So now that I think about it, I don't think this is going to work. Yeah. Alright, so we are setting it to null, but the event, because we never set the chest to be closed, so we can do if open container. We are simply going to set open container open chest to false, and then reset open container to be null. That should work. I feel like my brain's behind. Just spent about 7 hours writing for English and I don't understand any of it. Alright. So, chest is open. Can't access it. Kill the dude. Chest closes. Stop tabbing me out. So now you can open it, close it just like before. And you can open that normally. You cannot open it on the dead client. But you can kill. Yeah, it keeps tabbing me over. But yeah, closes the chest when you die. So that is good to go. Our chest is now set up to be accessed and open and closed as intended between several clients. So let's do a quick little run through of what we've done. I unfortunately do not remember where we started, but I'm just going to continue with what we've done now. So in the interact, what we do is make the call to the server. So from here is where we switch things up. So first off, we're going to check if the container has already been opened. If it is opened and open container is null, that means we are not the ones that are currently inside of the container. We haven't opened it. Meaning we're like, if client 1 opens the inventory, then it's going to be null on client 2 because he's not opening the inventory. But on client 1, this is not going to be null, it's going to be valid, so we're not going to return. We're going to continue running the rest of the code. Now let's say we're at client 1. We're simply going to have a boolean that we're going to have, just call it open chest. So if the container is open, we are going to set it to null, which will trip this Unwrap event to fire. And since we're setting it to null, that means we're going to close our inventory and give our functionality back to our characters so we can, move around, shoot, and all that kind of stuff. But if open container is null, we're going to set open container to equal the container, which will trigger an Unwrap event again, but instead of closing our widget and giving our functionality, it's going to open the widget, which is our inventory, and revoke our functionality for, moving, shooting, and all that kind of stuff. Then it's going to set open chest to true, and because of that, that means we are going to either open or play the open or closing animation in open chest. And that should be the same for join in progress clients as well, which we will test here in a second. So let's see. In our open close inventory, when we press I, like let's say we press I instead of E to close the inventory, we will simply check and see if we do in fact have open container as valid, meaning we were in fact inside of a container's inventory when we closed it. We're going to call our server inventory close function. So we're going from the client to the server, and all that does is, where is it? All that does is remove the log. We're simply going to double check that our open container is valid. Then we're going to set open chest to false because we are closing it on the server. And because of that, we're going to go ahead and set open container back to being null, which will close our inventory. Well, actually it won't do anything because it's not going to do anything. Another thing is when we die. So if we have the inventory open and we are killed, then the inventory would be stuck open if we didn't do this little bit here. So what this does is we check and see if open container is valid, meaning we are in fact accessing the inventory of a container. And if that is the case, then we make a call to display open chest. We set it to false, meaning the animation for the closing is going to happen, as well as it's going to toggle the isOpen variable to false. Then we're going to set open container to null on our own client. So that's how that works. It's relatively simple. And I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little join in progress test real quick to make sure that it's all good to go, which it should be since how replication in Unreal works. So open up a server and a client, just one for now. Alright, let's head over here, open up the chest, tab out. Let's open up another client to join. Alright, chest is still open. I press E. Nothing happens. I kill the dude. Now I can open it. So, we are good to go. We can now continue. And I'm thinking in the next video, we will probably be setting it up to transfer items from the chest to our client. I don't know, just gonna have to kind of, screw it. We'll just see what happens. I'll see you in the next one.